Nefateria Fonda is president of Go Get It Inc., a certified business and sales coach, author, and facilitator specializing in helping Christian parallelpreneurs. She helps them get clear on whom they serve, how they serve, get confident in their sales skills, and get cash into their business so that God gets the glory. Nefateria, come make we talk. All right. Hey guys, thank you so much for hopping in and watching this week's episode of Come Make We Talk. As you would have heard in the bio, my guest this week is a phenomenal lady, and she's here to share her life story with us. Nefateria, thank you so much for agreeing to hop on with me and just talk a little bit more about like how you grew up, how you transformed, what that life experience was like. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Oh, where do I begin, right? So how
Let's start with childhood. Like, tell me what childhood was like. So I know you're based in North Carolina now, but are you from North Carolina?
Yes, I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and raised in Raleigh. I actually ended up graduating high school in Fayetteville because I went to stay with my aunts and my grandparents the last 2 years of high school. I am the oldest. Yes, I am the oldest child. So my mom and stepfather just have two boys, and those are the two that I was raised with. And then my dad has 4 other children, and one is deceased, so he has 3 that's still living. Okay. So I'm the oldest, period. So
what kind of privilege or responsibility like did that come with growing up? Like I'm Jamaican, as you know, so it could be that I'm the last of 3, so my perspective will be very different. But I'm interested to see if there are any like parallels that we can draw based on like your experience as the oldest and mine as the youngest, or just in general in terms of your upbringing.
So I would say as the oldest, there was definitely a lot more responsibility put on myself. Mm-hmm. As the oldest, I definitely remember being very much involved in my 2 brothers that I was raised with upbringing, you know, teaching them things from how to tie their shoe to, you know, preparing their meals. So just really learn responsibility at a very early age. Mm-hmm. Also, probably because I was the oldest and the first, parenting was a little different. Of course, they pretty much got a little bit more lax as my brothers came along. So it was twofold. I probably had a little bit more structure and discipline that was instilled in me and given to me compared to my brothers. But at the same time, I learned responsibility at a very young age. And due to me learning that type of responsibility at a very young age, it made me be sure that if I do decide to have children, make sure that I've done everything that I wanted to do, because even though they were not my children, due to their needs, some things I was unable to do because of their needs.
Interesting. What did your mom and stepdad do for a living?
So my twofold. So they both were in the military. My mom was an officer in the Air Force, and my stepdad was enlisted in the NCO in the Army. Wow. Both of them eventually got out. When he got out, he went to work for the post office where he retired. When my mom got out, her initial job was American Airlines as a planner. And then she eventually went full-time in entrepreneurship and did real estate, restaurant, owned a laundromat, just various entrepreneurial journeys.
Nice.
So I can see how all of that experience and upbringing kind of brings me to who I am. I too did decide to go into service. I went into the Army and served for 4 years. I am an entrepreneur as well, but that discipline from just my parents being military and the fact that I went into the service, I'm still very disciplined, ordered, organized, structure is still very, and then that responsibility, they're being responsible due to the fact that I was an adult. Not an adult, but I was the oldest and had that responsibility, and just the choices that I've made in life has always been responsible choices, I would say.
So we're going to dial it back a little bit. And in terms of like growing up, so yes, you'd have seen your mom and your stepdad as part of the military and seen that structured life. Was that something that you always wanted to do, or was it by virtue of like, okay, let me just, I'm already in the family, I'm already, you know, seeing it play out around me, let me just go and enlist?
No.
What was your first career choice?
No, it wasn't. What I initially wanted to do was go to Hampton University, is what I would initially wanted to do. I was teetering between law and psychology, and I was unable to get grant money. And my mom is a very about her money, so she had instilled in me at a young age about being a good steward, not being in debt. So student loans were not an option for me. And even though eventually I ended up getting them, but it was not an option because I had been instilled in me so long that you know, owe no man nothing but the love. And that's the scripture in the Bible. You know,
wow. You can don't say that like right off the top of
Yes, absolutely. So going into the military was not my initial choice. Initially, I wanted to go to Hampton University and either do law or psychology. And when I couldn't get any federal grant money and didn't have any scholarships or anything like that, then the military was my next choice. It was, let me go to the military, get some college money, plus I can get away as well. So it was too far.
So where were you based? Like, were you based in North Carolina? Because a lot of persons leave to try and get away, and then they end up being based right back in their hometown.
Nope. Not the case at all. I went to basic training in Fort Leonard, Missouri. Very cold.
Then I went very far away.
Yes. And then I went to Korea, and from Korea, I ended up in Fort Polk, Louisiana, and that's where I ended my military career, was in Fort Polk.
Oh, nice. Were you just like, look, where's the furthest I can go? Send me there.
No, of course not. You know, everybody picks like Hawaii and, you know, Texas and all the like hot places, right? So, but no.
Okay. So what age did you enlist? What age was that? Most persons, that's around like 17, 18.
Yeah, I probably was 18. I probably was 18. Probably was 18, 19. Yeah, I probably was 18. Yeah.
So in terms of that journey for you and what you can share about that experience, how much would you say that it continued to like shape you? So you'd have gone into some structure, you'd have gone in, you know, way more level-headed than the typical person enlisting, but based on that, you know, journey on the inside and seeing how much that would require of you to get up at 6 a.m. for PT, to, you know, be going through and following orders, you know, you'd have been coming in used to responsibility, but I'm sure it's a different level when there's such a strict hierarchical structure inside of the military. How did you respond to that?
The discipline itself wasn't my hardest part. The physical aspect was hardest for me. Okay. I was not an athlete in high school or middle school or any of that. So getting through the physical PT testing and things like that was the things that were probably my biggest struggles. My mom has always been a strict disciplinarian. And so, you know, to say
that was like second nature for you.
Right. So the screaming or hurry up and wait or get there fast, like none of that, you know, was any trauma to me. Or you think the bed is made, but it doesn't bounce a quarter off, so you ain't do those corners right. Let's do it again. And, you know, this cabinet is not clean, so I'm getting you up at the crack of dawn. This is mama, and pulling everything out the cabinet. And now you need to reorganize it in the way that it needs to be organized. So
she was like strict.
Yes, mama don't play. Still don't play.
Yes, got it.
Mama don't play.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah. So the PT part of it was the struggle for me. That was a struggle for me. However, I'm also very foundationally based in my Christian belief, And when I realized how much of a struggle the running was for me, I'm a very top heavy young lady. I'm not athletic. So it required a lot more effort than some of the other teens that were running beside me, if you will. So, it took me, making the decision. I say, okay, Lord, what can we do? So I just started every night when we had downtime, going trotting around like a little trail. And,
oh wow! So you were doing like double the work to keep up.
Yes, because I had to pass the PT test. There was no. That's part of it, right? So I'm not a cross trainer runner. I don't run, for fun. Like I'm not none of those things. So what do I need to do
to make it through this contract, to make it through these 4 years?
Yes, absolutely. And so that started in basic training, definitely leaning and depending on God. That's why I say, no matter what step you take, it will work out. And I literally was trotting around the trail every night that we had free time, right? Other people did different things. They might've made phone calls to their family. Neff was trotting around this trail because Neff has to pass the PT test. I mean, I love my family, but Neff got to pass this PT test. So Neff is not going to continue this journey, which she had set out to do. Yeah. So, that praying, that daily trot and effort, what I ended up doing was shaving probably about 30 minutes off my PT test, just from doing that consistent trot. So I prayed. I took my free time and did my little trot. I wasn't running fast. Would
you like chant? So I know that like cadences are a part of PTs at times, but at night when it was just you and God, were you just like trotting and just chanting? Yes.
Absolutely. Like there was no drill sergeant there. You know what I'm saying? I talked to myself. I talked to God. I prayed. I sung a song, whatever I could do. But I was determined to, continue to trot every evening that I had. And then it was I never forget. I don't remember her name, but I can see her as plain as day. It was a Caucasian young lady. And she was like in my same age group. And I remember the day of the PT test. I was like, could you be my pacer? Would you be my pacer? And what that means is, or what it meant for me was, as long as I stayed on her heels, because she had passed the PT test before, I know that I could pass it. So if I just kept up with her, I could pass the PT test. And of course I passed the PT test. My drill sergeant gave me a hard time because at the end of a PT test, they always want you to like give it everything you got at the end and just like shoot it out. And so at the end that I did that, and this is the other thing that I will never forget, he was like, based on the amount of energy you had at the end, you did not give it all. He was like, I know she was your pacer, but she actually held you back. He said, because she was your pacer, you weren't trying to pass her.
Wow.
And so because you wasn't.
I just got some chill. That's a word right there. Okay.
And I never forgot that. And the funny part is he told me that, but I knew it. It was almost like what he said was a confirmation because I remember her pacing me and me getting close to her heels and I felt like I was slowing down. Mm-hmm. And in my head, she was my pacer. How can I pass her? Mm. You know what I'm saying? Mm. So it probably was a twofold thing. I'm looking for I'm asking her for help, but then I'm a passer. And then the other part that's coming to me right now, it could have been, if I do pass her and she's no longer my pacer, will I make it? You know what I'm saying? Because now who I have been using as the mark, if you will, I've passed that mark, but what happens? So but I never forget that experience. So definitely pray, taking whatever small steps you got to take. And,
we're going to come back to that, right? Because I'm sure, I'm sure for me that throughout my life, especially if you were working with a mentor or you're in an environment where you look up to someone and how they operate, there comes a time where you're like, can I do it? But they haven't done it yet. And you're doing just that. You're pacing your performance or matching it to the heel. Not to the toe, to the heel of theirs, afraid to step up. That's the word. All right. So we're finished with the military. We come to the end of our contract. You're discharged. what happened next? Did you have a plan coming out of the military to be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do? Or was it more of like touch and go? Let me just see and figure it out. Like, what first and foremost, what's the stereotype of persons usually when they leave the military or about that time to leave? Is that most persons re-enlist and just continue to do something or go on reserve, or just like break away altogether?
I think it just depends on the individual. They talk to you about what options you have. Okay. To continue, if you decide not to continue, talking about the skill sets that you have and how they can translate into the civilian sector and things like that. For me, I didn't have a plan.
You did not?
I did not have a plan. I got out and I did not have a plan.
Were you saving money during this time?
I've always been a saver, but I've never been afraid of work. So that being said, I never was a person that thought I was above any type of job. So even though I did not have necessarily a plan per se, I would work wherever to ensure that my bills were paid.
Like, where were you working at this time?
So when I got out of the service initially, I didn't work initially. What I did was, my plan was to go to nail school. And then from nail school, the purpose of nail school was to have a way to make money while in school, in case what the military gave me for school did not cover it. That was the plan. I did finish nail school in Louisiana, and I eventually came back home, and I did not go to college right away. I came back home and I worked in the hotel industry. And I did that. And then eventually I decided to go back to college. I wasn't, as much as that was my whole point of going into service, for whatever reason, when I got out, it wasn't as a priority. And then eventually, I want to say, I don't know if this is the exact time that it happened, but I remember my grandmother going back to get her high school diploma. I remember that happening.
Oh, that's so nice.
And I was like, at my grandmother's age, I don't recall the age in this moment, how dare I say I'm not going to go to school? How dare I have the money to go? My grandmother found it important enough to go back and get her grandma. Now, we ain't talking about some current young grandmas. We're talking about a grandma that's up in age. We ain't talking about no 39-year-old grandma.
Grandmas, they're grandmas.
Right, not them. No, we talking about Medea grandma types. And I felt an obligation. I felt a responsibility.
So I'm curious as to how, like, this the whole reason why you were enlisted in the first place, the whole reason why you would push yourself to pass that PT test, the whole reason why you would be crossing your T's and dotting your I's. The moment you have that in the palm of your hand, like, okay, this is what I work for, I'm not able to do it, you no longer want to do it. Like, there wasn't that urgency to move and step into it.
I have recently come to the realization that I'm a planner. I'm not spontaneous at all. I need a plan or it doesn't happen. And as much as it was the reason I went into the service, once I got out, there wasn't a plan. There wasn't, okay, this is how much money you got. Find out, do you want to go to a school in Louisiana because you have some sort of residency here? Are you going to go back to North Carolina? Are you going to still pursue Hampton? And I have accepted I'm a person that needs a plan for everything. It could be as simple as the plan to go to the grocery store. Like, I don't just need a list. I need the list to map out, if I go down this aisle, what do I need to hit? Like, I'm that list type of person, right? Like, I don't like going to the grocery store and getting a cucumber, then running over here to the milk and then coming back to the meat. No. The list has to be like produce, deli, meats, that like it has to go in the order of the grocery store. because
what? You
I
like?
value time. I'm dead serious. I value time. And so
No, I mean,
store,
I write a list to go to the grocery store, but my list isn't organized like that. It's just, okay, oh my gosh, I need some detergent. Okay, underneath that, I need some potatoes. Underneath that, I need some straws.
The list starts out
as
that
I walk
way.
through the grocery store, I'm scanning my list, but it's not that organized to be like, okay, these 5 things.
It starts out the way you said, because like everybody, you have the list on the refrigerator, and as you need stuff, you add. But prior to going to the grocery store, I take that list and say, okay, what part is produce? What part is this? And as I'm going, then I check off as I get to it. And then I say, okay, so I shouldn't get all the way to dairy and then have to be like, oh, I need cucumbers. No. Because that's the time wasted practice, how I see it. No. Let's spend the time planning so that I don't waste no time going back and forth.
Wow. I've never heard anybody do that before. That's a new one for me. Got it. Okay. So, well, I mean, if that's where, like, for you, the security comes in terms of knowing what you're about, knowing what's happening, then I can understand why, there was like a moment of freeze. Like, now that you're out, you'd be like, okay, what am I doing? And then you would need to then step back. Okay, I get that. So grandma went and got her high school diploma, and you got caught up in your feelings a little bit. You're like, okay, I need to make a move. Where did you go to school, and what did you do?
So I ended up going to North Carolina Wesleyan in the adult program. It's actually the traditional campus is in Rocky Mount, but they had like adult satellite campus in my local area
right.
It was in Mooresville, North Carolina. So it was twofold. They had adult classes. Well, when I say adult classes, the classes were in the evenings and on Saturdays. So you could still work and go to school. So that really worked out very well for me because I still had responsibility. So I could not go to school. I would not have chosen to just go to school full time. That wouldn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. What did you study?
I ended up getting a degree in justice studies.
Justice studies.
Yes.
Okay, nice. So you're in degree to do what? Like, what was the plan in terms of the career path? You're gonna get a justice studies degree, and then because this is far from psychology, or well, it's close to the law profession. Was that supposed to be like a segue into becoming a lawyer?
Nope.
Reviewing reports?
Nope. None of that. And actually, before I even went to Wesleyan, I went to my my local community college, Durham Tech. Mm-hmm. I started out at Durham Tech and then eventually went to Wesleyan. When I started at Durham Tech, I had thought I wanted to be. Are you familiar with the movie Bone Collector? Okay, so it's a movie with Denzel Washington, and in the movie it basically combined both of my loves. So he goes to the crime scene and figure out how the crime took place, why it took place.
Like a crime scene, like
investigator. Yes.
Recently, like heard about like their job description, and I'm like, that's so cool. I don't know if I could do it, but I feel like it's cool.
Yes. So I felt like that combined both of my loves. At that point, I didn't want to give all the years to going to law school. Mm-hmm. People had kind of talked me out of the psychology realm. They had taught me out of the psychology realm because they was like, if you really want to make money, you have to be a psychiatrist, and then you got to prescribe meds. And I wasn't about that life. And so I was like, no. So, that kind of taught me off of that. And when I seen the movie Bone Collector, I was like, okay, this combines both of what I
You're
enjoy.
Interested in.
Right. And then as I further learned more about it, it had a lot of science involved. Mm-hmm. And science wasn't necessarily my strong suit. But what I recently told my nephew, and I'm thankful for where I'm at in life now, but what I recently told my nephew is don't let fear prevent you from even trying. So me not being, I passed science, but it wasn't like a love. And I realized when I started looking into crime scene investigator, looking at forensic degrees and stuff like that, it had a lot of science. I was like, I didn't even try because I felt like I was.
See, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Let me do this. Let me go left.
and that's kind of what happened. And you know, so I continue to speak that into my nephew, like, don't let the fear, you know, stop you from trying, because, you know, two things could have happened. I could have tried it and failed miserably, but at least I would have tried it. Or I could have succeeded in being possibly in a career that I had fantasized about once I had understood what it was. So, yeah. So don't let fear stop you from trying.
We're doing a degree in general justice. We're finished. What's the plan at that point? And before you answer that, going forward, like, what was the conversation you were having with God, like, during that time? Like, he brought you through basic training.
Right.
Now it's time to pick a career path and go back to school. What was the conversation that you were having at that time, or the recurring prayer?
So at that point, I just was following the plan. And if the plan wasn't, well, I shouldn't even say following the plan. So got the degree. I was doing security. So I got the degree, and then I was trying to move up in my security. And the female that I thought would be a mentor, help me move up, did not. Then I started applying for like county and government jobs from like Georgia to DC area. Like, so any part them from, I wouldn't go no further than Georgia, but I wasn't gonna go no higher than like DC, Washington, you know, area. Right. And so I, you know, applied, took some interviews, and then that wasn't, you know, it wasn't coming rapidly, right? So then it was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna just work and do what I gotta do, because I can't say why I stopped applying, but I think now that we're having a discussion, I probably really stopped applying because I got tired of hearing no or not hearing nothing. And I was like, probably already felt to a degree like I was behind the power curve, right? So I can't, you know, I got to do something. You know, I can't just keep wanting a county government job in this, and I'm not getting it. I gotta move. So
yeah, you still have things to do. You still have bills to pay. You still have your living. Right. Absolutely. So what did you end up doing?
So after that, I applied to work for the post office. I took the test, and then that took a while for me to get called. So while I was waiting for the test to get called back from the test, I ended up working in a call center for United Healthcare. So I did like customer service for them, and I actually did it in Buffalo, New York. At the time, I was dating a guy, and that was where he was from, and then I moved up that way. Okay. And so did that. Got the call from the post office. Moved back to North Carolina within like 2 weeks. Took the job at the post office. Felt like I was good. I was in my good government job, as they say, and you know, did that, and then eventually left the post office to pursue my entrepreneurial journey.
So let's talk about that, right? So here you are, like, the aim was to get a government job, to get some security, to get that good pension, to, you know, the low energy, or, you know, a safe space, right? A safe work environment.
Yes.
At what point do you remember that moment, whether it's internally or having a conversation with someone, where something kind of stirred up within you and you were like, this ain't it. Like, I thought this was it, right? This is what I wanted. This is what I was going after. But now I'm in the position and I'm like, there is more. There's more. There's a little bit more that I can give.
Well, it did not think about what I wanted for life did not occur to me, because when I got in the post office, like you said, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to supervision. I'm eventually gonna I'm gonna be a postmaster in a little small town. But like I was like, okay, this is it. I'm good. I'm gonna sit right here and ride it out to the wheels fall off. And then I had a heart attack. And when I had the heart attack, it made me assess all of the plans, all of the things that I had said one day, someday I'm going to try it, and never had tried it per se. And it was only 3 things that came to me at the time. It was taking martial arts. So I tried Taekwondo. It was learning to ride a motorcycle. I tried that. That won't for me either. And it was not. I'm just a sexy accessory on the back of my husband's Harley, and I'm okay with that. And you have to know yourself, right?
I agree.
And the only other thing was a business. You know, I told you that I had initially got my license in to be a nail tech, and I keep that license current to this day.
What?
And yeah.
So do you take clients? Like, do you have persons that book you?
No, I don't. I do not do any service. I do have a girlfriend that stays in the industry, and sometimes she needs people to do some mobile services, and that's why I do keep my license up to be able to help her out. But I currently don't have a clientele in that. But I am a firm believer that if you get a certification or something, you should keep it up, because you never know when you have to fall back on it. And I just know or heard of, not necessarily know a lot of people that maybe have gotten like real estate license, or, you know, license that they're not as easy to get, and they let it lapse. And now it's like, they're not trying to go back because it was so hard to get it. And you know, I feel like if you spent some money in getting something, whether it was hard or not, you need it. If it don't take much to maintain it, why not maintain it? So when my dream when I got my nail license was to own a nail school.
Okay.
And so when I had the heart attack and was debating about businesses, it was like, okay, are you going to pursue this nail school dream? Are you going to go back to school and pursue, you know, the social work, psychology, that kind of capacity? Or are you going to try something new and do life coaching? And I decided on doing something new.
Okay. So were you like in the life coach realm? Were you like a personal development fiend? Was that something that you were interested in, like, before thinking of like being a life coach? How did you come up with that particular area?
I would say, I don't even know if I personally would consider myself a personal development fiend, but I did the work on myself. Not saying that I coach myself, but I went through my own therapy for my own healing from various areas of my life. I've had always been a good listener, and people had always felt they could tell me problems. Even if it was a stranger I met in a store, they'd be like, can I get your opinion about something? I'm thinking, why in the world you don't know me from this kind of thing? Okay, Lord, let's see where this goes. You know what I mean? So it is just something that has, I mean, even older people, you know what I'm saying, would just sit and talk to me like I was their age, you know, growing up. So it was just something that, with my own therapy, that I felt like I could help, because it's deeper. Like when I went through my own therapy and realized, even how, like, I can tell you right now, I know I'm a planner. So whereas other people can be like, I'm gonna do a party and they don't need nail lists, I need 12, and I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? And just knowing that, just accepting what I am and how my experience, and making sure that my life is set up in a way that honors who I am. I am responsible. I am very disciplined. I'm very organized, and it's okay that everyone else don't do it that way. But this is how I gleam in my space. So do what it takes to ensure that you're doing that.
So what was the plan at that point in terms of like your business and how you wanted to design it, what you wanted to look like, what area you wanted to serve? Like, how did you, like, this is during your assessment, right? So your heart attack has given you an opportunity to reassess your life and the impact that you would have had. How did you then define those parameters in terms of how you wanted to be able to, you know, provide some tangible help to others?
So I, you know, looked up various certifications, decided on one that fit my, you know, schedule and life and all the things, did the certification, and probably like most life coaches felt like I wanted to, you know, that I could coach any and everyone. So I did. And I had a lot of various type of individuals, and that helped me to realize, I got to narrow this down, because it's heavy. You know what I'm saying? I had a young lady whose son was killed. I had a young lady that was struggling with a relationship with her mom. I had married couples. I had single fathers that were recently divorced and struggling with ADD. Like, I had a rampant of people that I worked with, and I'm like, this is not it. So I eventually narrowed it down, thinking about what I love, which was money, business, and relationships. Well, from the life coaching that I did, I was like, oh, I don't want to deal with nobody in that relationship. So it was like money or business. So I decided on money. So then I narrowed it down to personal finance coaching, and then did some credit repair for my personal finance coaching clients. And then what I was finding, some of those clients then wanted their own business. So then I went and got some more, knowledge and certification about selling and business to be able to continue to serve them. And where I am now is I help parallelpreneurs, those same people that are working and they're building something alongside their 9 to 5, whether it's service or product based. And because when I personally left the post office, I did not have a thorough plan. And when I left the military, I didn't have a thorough plan, which took me in a lot of different areas and different ways. So I'm trying to ensure that the parallelpreneur that I work with, that you surely have your plan set up. Yes, this is definitely a leap of faith, but it don't have to be you falling off a cliff. You could be just leaping to a nice fluffy cloud if you got a plan. And we get it, we ensure that you're clear on some things and you're confident in some other areas, and that we make sure that you can get the cash to ensure that, when you make this transition.
That part.
Yeah.
So a part of like your coaching would then be, well, I guess, how should I say this? Well, okay, let's start with how you like start to approach, or what does that discovery process look like for you now, in terms of making sure you have a good fit for your client base. Like you said, you have gone through so many, so at this point, like, okay, that's not gonna work. How do you now determine who is a good fit, who is not, and what does that process to get into your life coaching program look like?
So how do I determine who's a good fit? That's a great question. Well, I definitely put out to the forefront that my belief is big in my coaching practice. So I am a Christian. I believe in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I let people know that up front. I pray for my clients, and I do it as I'm led to do, or tell them as I'm led to tell them whatever I feel I'm led to tell them. And they have to be okay with that. So that's number one and foremost. If you believe in something else, or you're not okay with that, then we don't work together, no matter if I can help you. Because that is a part of the practice. We get on coaching calls, I pray. You come to my networking event, I'm praying. If you ask me to pray for you, I'm praying for you right then and there. So that is a non-negotiable for me. The other process of me qualifying them is there are newer to business, or they've been in business a long time, but they haven't gotten the traction. And that's because they have not put the stakes in the ground around who they serve, how they serve them, and they're not confident in selling to them. They're passionate about their service or product, but they are very passive when it comes to actually selling it. And you can't be. And so it doesn't have to come off as sleazy or gross or anything like that, but you have to make the sale. And so qualifiable, first of all, you have to be okay with the fact that I'm a Christian and that we're going to pray. If you're okay with that, then you have to know, do you feel that you are clear on who you serve, but you really don't want to put it out there because you're scared you're going to not get enough people? Are you unsure how you're going to price or package the service or the experience that you're going to provide? Are you unsure, not clear where to find these individuals? Are you not confident when you're in a networking event or just sit beside somebody on the plane and they ask you, what do you do? Are you not confident in telling them what you do? Do you lead with your 9 to 5? And then kind of be like, oh, and by the way, I do.
It's on the side.
Right. Do you do that? Are you confident in having a sales conversation, and asking for whatever you charge, $10K or $10? Can you articulate that confidently? You have the systems in place.
What are some of like your own life experiences, like as it relates to like going through the process of being able to help others? Because a part of that, I believe, is like using your own experiences to give them an opportunity to relate to that situation. What are some of your own life experiences as it relates to your business, and just life in general, that would have given you some of these lessons that give to others as like laying the groundwork, laying the stakes?
Gotcha. I truly believe you have to have a good foundation right out the gate, and that's what I base everything on. Having that good foundation, you can definitely build from there. My experience of not having a plan has taken me on these various journeys, so that's why I'm very adamant about them having a plan if they decide that they want to transition from being a parallelpreneur to be a full-time entrepreneur. As far as why it's important for them to be clear, it's because when I got my life coaching certification, I can coach you on anything. And because I didn't put a stake in the ground and say who I wanted to work with, I worked with a various type of individual with various concerns. So that's why I know it's important to be clear. And when you are clear and you can articulate that, you're going to attract the people that are interested in what you provide, and you're going to repel the ones that are not. And that's what you want to do, because how many times have we said, I'm tired of attracting, freebie seekers and tire kickers? That's because you ain't put a stake in the ground and say, I serve Christian parallelpreneurs. You're just like, oh, I serve everyone that does everything.
You.
Right, exactly. And
what's the most common mistake the most common one that you realize that parallelpreneurs, make just off the bat, some maybe even unconsciously, outside of not having a plan, of course?
Yeah. I definitely would say not articulating who it is that they serve. Like they know in their hearts of hearts, like they know, because when you dig, they're very passionate about who those individuals are. But when you go and check their online stuff, it's not speaking to those individuals, because that's where the disconnect is, because you're figuring that this one person I done narrowed it down to is literally only one person, and that's not going to feed my business. So then I need to speak more general over here because I have more people. No. If you speak to those people will seek and find you, and there is plenty. There is enough. I use this example all the time. Around the street from my house, there are three burger places, right? And depending on what type of burger or experience I want, I could pass the one that's nearest to me, or go back to the, what I'm saying, or stop. Like, I'm saying that
you probably only like the fries anyway.
Yes.
If you needed fries or a special type of shake, you're gonna stop at this one.
Yes. So I try to help them to understand that if the big boys are like a mile apart and they not hurting for no business, then if you put your stake in the ground and be this special sauce, I only do these type of fries, or only have, what I'm saying? People will search you out too.
Yeah.
They have not closed down. They are all still viable businesses. So, well, actually it is 4, because I just thought about one that's like right down the street.
All right. Well, so here you are now. Like, how long have you had your own business as an entrepreneur?
So I got my certification for life coach in 13. So it's been like 7.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. Learned a lot and continue to learn a lot.
Gotten to the point where you have like so much life experience to be able to back up how you show up and help other people. Do you ever like stop and look back at everything that you have been through and, kind of reminisce a bit, or, like, what would you say to 18-year-old Nefateria, and just going into the military, only seeing just about as far as her nose, but knowing that, okay, there was purpose in this process in terms of, okay, what it would have taught you, but also not knowing what the future holds. So now looking back, what would you say to that Nefateria?
Make your own decisions. I would tell her to make her own decision, trust her own instincts.
Wow, why would you say that?
I would say that because it's more than one way to skin a cat. I would say that because I didn't want to get a student loan, couldn't get no federal grant money, couldn't go to Hampton. So everybody's like, going to, yeah. So everybody's like, well, go in the military. Just go in the military. Just go in the military. And, you know, so it was like, no one was saying, you really want to go to school? Let's figure this out. Maybe an option is you have to work and go to school part-time, or maybe you need to move there for a year and work so you can get residency, so it's less money, you know what I'm saying? And, or, you know, like no one, it was just go to the military, go to the military, go to the military. Right. No one was giving me options because I had a limited mind of what my options were. Mama say don't be in no debt, so we ain't getting no student loans. Y'all made too much money, so they ain't give me no grant money. I ain't got no scholarships. What am I going to do?
So,
and
wow.
there was, yeah.
How does that show up in terms of how you now serve? Like, I completely get what you're saying in terms of make your own decisions, because when we're growing up and our parents are so involved in our lives, or they give so much influence, a part of not wanting to make that decision is not wanting to let them down, right? You don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to go so far off track that you feel like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. But so 2 questions. When did you get to the point where you did not need that permission anymore to make your own decisions? And 2, how do you now support, having had that experience and know what it feels like to kind of be cornered into one train of thought, how do you now show up for others, especially your clients, in helping them kind of figure stuff out without using your own experience as that, you know, landscape?
So to answer the first question, how do I now continue to give myself permission to make my own decision? I sit with whatever decision I got to make and kind of flush it out myself and think about what
When did you do that? When did you?
It's a constant work in progress. Like, it didn't happen like today. I mean, you know, it's a constant, something that I constantly work on.
Wow.
I can't think of a specific time when it happened, but at one point I would just say to myself, Nef, if everybody was dead, what would you do? Because I do value people that are in my life, their opinion and their wisdom. And because I held it to such a high standard, I felt like they knew better than me.
So let's stick a pin right there. You talked about your mom and how she was so influential in how you grew up and how you see the world, and you know, how you showed up for yourself in terms of like the responsible person. Was there ever a point as an adult that your mom said do XYZ and you firmly believed in doing ABC, and you had to then choose, like, put your foot down gently, of course, and say, you know what, Mama, I'm gonna go with ABC. Tell me, did that ever happen to you, first and foremost? Like, as a Jamaican, if growing up, you know, my mom's voice was in the back of my head all the time in terms of like whenever I was making a decision, and I too can relate to like, oh my gosh, what is my mom gonna think if I do this? And even now, I'm a grown woman, and I still sometimes have that internal battle with myself. But I remember the day like it just happened. It wasn't even yesterday, it's today. Having that conversation with my mom, and just like, you know, I call it a big woman conversation, where you're just like, look, I love you, but I'm not gonna do that. What was that moment like for you? Did you have that moment?
I did, and I'm not excited about the moment because when I put my foot down was dealing with the relationship I was in. She didn't approve the relationship, and she had her good reasons for that. But I was in love with the individual, so I stood by the individual. Oh. And so yeah, that's kind of where there was a big disconnect for us, because I don't know if she totally viewed it as I chose him over her, but I can see it maybe being indirect feeling that way, because it was just me and my mom. And then, she married my stepdad, and he had been in my life since I was 5, but it was me and my mom. So probably to a degree, she felt like me and her against the world, despite whatever, you know what I mean? Because that's who it was for the amount of times when I first was born and up until like 5 years old. So that definitely, was a trying period for us, because of the decision that I chose to make. And so, so that's where it is. Like I said, I don't use this one as much anymore, if everybody was dead, because that's kind of, very, nasty.
But morbid, but I mean, you're in the right frame of mind.
So I tried to, I did stop using that, like if everybody was dead, what decision I make. And I started saying, okay, now, before you go get opinions from people that are wiser or have more experience, sit down and really think about what it is that you want to do. Then go get what they got to say and kind of see, is it something that you want to do that they did add to, or that you didn't think about, that can kind of help you even mold the decision. Still be what you want, but they have helped mold it a little bit clearer for you because they brought something to it that you didn't even consider or think about.
So I kind of took like a different route. So instead of, because it was a situation where, okay, if I'm going to put out a suggestion, it's going to be colored in by everybody else's life experience with that particular topic or lack thereof. So if they didn't have a life experience with it, it's just their perception of it. And most times, more often than not, it would have been negative. So my solution to that was always like, don't tell nobody. When it's done and you're sure, and there's nothing that they can do to change it at that point, you be like, oh, I did this. Like,
that works too. I've done that in certain instances as well. That definitely works as well.
But I would definitely say that there is a balance to that the way you go about it, in terms of, okay, sitting with it first and then seeking the help of your village, because it helps to provide perspective. But I don't know if I'm at that point yet where
but some things, you have to, you've probably possibly talked it over with God, and God is telling you to go left, and everybody else would tell you to go right based on their perspective. So sometimes in those kind of situations, like you said, you got to move in silence. And then by the time it's time for them to realize that you went left and didn't go right, they have no choice but to get on board, because you're already going left. And then you don't have to have that conversation. Well, why? And are you sure? And and all of that, when it's probably already.
I say, but I didn't know. Yeah.
That's the fact that you're the youngest. That's what that is. Don't want to take no responsibility.
Yes, or I would just show like, I love you from across. We have just we totally avoided a conflict, and everybody's happy. Awesome. Yes. But going back to the question on how do you now show up for your clients? So with this, wisdom that you have gathered, how do you now show up for your clients in terms of helping them or hearing them?
Right. So what I definitely love about coaching, and I always push that I coach and I don't necessarily consult, because I guide my clients and support them in the decision that's in their heart of hearts. I don't necessarily say go left. I say, okay, let's talk about it. If you go left, and I even do it with my nephew, if you go left, let's talk about what happens or what can happen, and how will you handle that, and how would you handle that, and are you okay with that? Now if you go right, now, which one are you better equipped to deal or associate with? So I really listen to them. Now, there is moments that I push them and stretch them, but I also honor where they are. So if I say, okay, you need to get some clients, you need to make some prospecting phone calls, and they like, okay. You need clients. Yes, you have no wait list. No, I don't have a wait list. Okay. How can you reach out? Well, I can text them or I'll send them an email. Okay, well, let's start there. So the push is, I want you to get on the phone. But if you give me pushback, I respect that, because my goal is to get you to do it and to take action. So if I just be like, no, you need to call, you ain't gonna do it. You gonna say, yeah, like we do to our parents. Okay. And you ain't doing nothing. They say, yeah, you ain't listening. You done shut them down. But if I say, okay, that's fine. Let's do that. And then let's add one call to it. Call the person that you feel most comfortable and just try the phone call. Okay, Neff, I'm gonna do all emails and I call this. I feel comfortable with her and I can call her.
So there's something about what you said that just like ring a bell for me, right? Many times I would opt to do an email or a text over calling, because I feel like when it comes to business and it's time to advocate for yourself, what is a brain? It turns to mush. It's just up there. Like I can sell something for you. Like if I get what your services are, I'm your top salesperson. Like off the bat. Ask me to go out there and sell something for myself. What is English? I don't know what that is. So I completely get that. And it took a lot of practice. Like no matter what, you can't escape the point where at which you need to do the phone call. How do you encourage, like, without giving away secrets to your trade and to your service, how do you encourage persons who are afraid to advocate for themselves, advocate for their business? They really want to start something. They really want to be in a position where they're like, look, I know I can get you these results in this area. But you know, I'm scared to talk to you. I'm scared of hearing no or not yet, or I'm scared of even hearing yes. How do you encourage those people to, you know, just do it?
I encourage them by telling them selling is helping. And I say that, and I use women a lot because this is who we are, right? So if we're in the store and a stranger said, you overhear a stranger say that they have a headache, you're digging in your purse, you sending the kids to the car to get the medicine, like you are there to support them, relieving them of that pain of a headache, and you don't know them. And I say the same thing about your business. It is your obligation to relieve your clients, potential clients, your prospect, of the pain that they're experiencing, so that they can get to the other side of whatever that transformation you have to offer. It is, think about it as helping. If you hear them crying out in pain for whatever it is you can help them with, all you have to do is offer. No different than you offer the medicine to the person in the store. They still have the right to say no, or no, I'm fine, I'm gonna get something. It still happens, but it doesn't stop us from offering. Because it has happened. Like you go to offer and they be like, nah, I'm good. Or you offer somebody a piece of gum, oh no, I'm good. You know what I mean? But you don't take it like, you're like, okay, you put the gum back in your purse, and you're like, all right, then I offered the help. They chose not to take the help.
You don't take it personally.
That's it. But it's your obligation to offer your help.
It's your obligation to offer your help. I like that. I love that. I love that. I feel like it's a good segue to open the floor to you to talk to persons who may be interested in, you know, kind of scoping out their business and developing that plan. You know, I know persons who have had like side hustles for a long time, and I know that's a word that's like forbidden for you.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I understand it.
But yeah, you understand, because that's what they call themselves. Right. But essentially they are parallelpreneurs, but they have the challenge like transitioning into entrepreneurship full time, or just setting up the system to be able to, you know, have comfort in getting clients consistently, keeping them consistently, retention, and just like working on their business plan. What would you say to those persons right now who are interested in working with you?
Great question. I would say reach out to me. Go get on my scheduler. That's bit.ly/book with Nef. Apply for
I'll put it in the description.
Thank you. Apply for a discovery session. You know, we'll determine if we're checking both. It's an interview for both of us. If I'm a good fit for you, if I feel like I can offer you some support around what your next steps are, or if I need to refer you out to someone that can support you, basically depending on where you are, you know, or if your next step is a free resource. But we have that honest conversation, and I support you in the best way that I can for what your next step is, depending on where you are.
I love that. Okay, awesome. Nefateria, thank you so much for sharing that story with us, your story with us. I feel like for me, like some of the key lessons that I learned, that pacer one, like it's gonna stay up there, because so many times we unintentionally hold ourselves back out of fear of surpassing those who have previously guided us, not realizing that, honey, you're already so far past that point. 2, it is your obligation to offer a solution. It's your obligation. They don't have to say yes, but it is your obligation to help them to get to the other side. And by doing so, offering your services or your products or whatever it is that you do. It could just be a conversation, whatever it is that you're passionate about. And 3, of course, this is most important. Have a plan. That will definitely help you to get through those phases in life. It will help you to, you know, just see clearly. Even if it doesn't go exactly as you have written it down, it's still a guide. And if in Jamaica would I say, if you don't go so, it near go so. So it's gonna happen almost alongside, not too far off, drifting from the plan most times. And thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's been my honor, for sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. And for everybody else, I'll see you guys on the next episode of Come Make With